Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to those testifying today. Ignoring the science of natural immunity led to prolonged lockdowns, school closures, vaccine mandates, people being fired, losing their livelihoods, particularly in a city like mine, New York. We had a labor shortage. We had many issues as a result. And early on, we knew that naturally acquired immunity was present for COVID-19, and just about everyone in the world was studying COVID-19 and finding individuals developed the natural immunity. Various studies showed that reinfections were rare, protection lasted around 1 year, individuals who were previously infected with COVID were likely to benefit from the vaccination, and the natural immunity, right? And a previous COVID-19 infection offers at least the same level or even superior protection as 2 doses of a Moderna or Pfizer vaccine. But even with all this data, the CDC and the Biden administration began to present a false message that receiving a COVID vaccination and booster was the only way to protect yourself against the virus. President Biden made multiple statements that simply did not follow the science, those testifying today are affirming. He said, if you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an IC unit, you're not going to die. That was false. He said, you're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. That was also false. Dr. Fauci says you become a dead end for the virus. That was also false. And in New York City, all public employees, including teachers, police officers, firefighters, those frontline workers, they were mandated to get this vaccination or be terminated. And as a result, nearly 15,000 city workers were fired for not complying, many who had been recently infected. So since I joined Congress in 2021, I have fought for my constituents against these arbitrary and unscientific policies. I led a lawsuit that ended Mayor de Blasio's vaccine passport, where you couldn't even walk into a restaurant to get a sandwich unless you were vaccinated. Joined a lawsuit that struck down President Biden's vaccine mandate on the private sector. We fought New York City to drop vaccine mandates on the private sector and on the public sector and reinstate those that were fired. We also voted to lift that vaccine mandate on members of our military. Dr. Smelkinson, let me start with you. Did President Biden, Governor Cuomo, and Mayor de Blasio do a great disservice to our economy and society by not incorporating natural immunity into their policies?
Yes, I mean, the data showed that natural immunity was as protective as vaccinated immunity. And when we're talking about equitable policies, lower income minority communities tended to be less vaccinated, and relatedly, they also tended to have more natural immunity. So these vaccine passports that were enacted were actually quite inequitable as well, since they didn't make exemptions.
I agree, and that's why we sued to stop it. How was natural immunity not even a factor in these policy decisions that negatively impacted so many Americans?
I can't answer why it's been disregarded, because other countries have acknowledged it. I mean, that's why these studies were run. When the vaccines came out, they started getting busy on figuring out how does the vaccine compare to natural immunity. There was a big Israeli study to get at the prioritization of the vaccines, and so I don't know why it was disregarded.
Dr. McCarry, do you have any inkling there?
I think you just heard why people don't want to recognize natural immunity. They associate it with a let it rip, try to get the infection strategy. No one is saying that. None of us have said that. Vaccines save lives. None of us, not even the Great Barrington Declaration folks or Scott Atlas. Look, I get it, you may not like Trump, but look at Sweden's deaths and look at Michigan's deaths. As you know, it's not fair to compare Florida and New York because they had infections at different times seasonally, and medicine advanced in its lowering the infection fatality rate. But Sweden and Michigan are perfect comparisons. Same population, same percent of older people, identical populations. In the end, 37,000 deaths in Michigan, half, 17,000 in Sweden.